Here we go. Casey already asked for permission for that. Welcome. Okay, here it is. It's starting now.
I thought you were a professional voice actor.
I was a professional. Now I'm just a professional podcaster, which is even worse.
Woof.
Woof. Welcome, hello, and welcome to another episode of House of Decline. And I'm very excited for the guest today, someone whose work I've admired for a very long time, and I'm glad to have gotten to have known them on Twitter, or X.com as it's called now.
You might be familiar.
You might be familiar with the old X.com. It's Jerry Holkins, a.k.a. Tycho Brahe from Penny Arcade. He's here. How are you doing, Jerry?
It has been my great pleasure. Now, we have spoken at length before the recording even began.
Yes.
And I'm here to assure your readers that they're in for a whale of a time. Great content, just, flowing.
Yeah, flowing out. We're linguistically able. We have language facilities that other people may not have access to.
Well, the language facilities that they may crave. They may finish this podcast and then immediately start at the beginning again just to get that sucker.
Yeah, they're going to get it. They're going to get all, they're going to listen to this and get, foaming at the mouth. They're going to work out to this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, whatever you want to do to this podcast, we support 100%.
Yeah. We're going to put, really hardcore music behind it. There's going to be pump up music. It's going to be, we're going full Andrew Tate here. We're going, this is what it's going to be.
I mean, it's the turn they've all expected. The signs are there if you look close.
Yeah. You drop in on, first you go trans and then you go Tate. That's the move there, But that's also sort of why I wanted to bring you on the show is I've done fan comics of yours before. First of Gabe disappearing because you never got to suck his dick.
Correct. And what's always funny is that people, at various times people have sent me that, I assume in an attempt to make me feel bad, but I'm 1 million years old and I came up on the early internet. You're going to have to work pretty hard to make me sad with a picture.
Oh, yeah. Well, and day one, people have been saying Gabe and Tycho are gay. That's day one.
That's a core assertion. That reading has been there from the jump.
Yeah.
Whether it was intended as just as wickedness or as something that, we would ostensibly find insulting, or as a thing to get at some kind of a theme that's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's also there too. We'll get into it, but I did write a novella just about that. And I was quite surprised to learn that everything they'd been telling me was true the whole time.
Well, there's an exploration. There is. So the queer elements to Penny Arcade, if I may say. So, it's interesting because I have read your novella. You sent your novella to me. And what I find interesting
I'm glad.
is that it's very yaoi-esque. It's not like Tom of Finland style gay pornography, which is usually very, focused on the sexual act itself. It's very classic romance novel, withheld, permission. And in that way, it resembles more of a yaoi, something made for women, actually. Or in another sense, Yuri, like a secret Yuri, a secret toxic Yuri comic, because that's sort of, and it's interesting when I see lesbian content made by cis straight men and who pull it off, because it's think of Love and Rockets, where the essential dynamic to Hopi and Maggie, right, is that there's sort of a brainy introverted one and a more outspoken or impulsive adventurous one.
Well, and these are classic, but these dynamics, they're healthy dynamics.
Yeah.
Right? They both get something really important from the world. Mm-hmm. As a result of them being together, right?
Yeah. And that's the classic. It's Ren and Stimpy, too, who, they were always getting...
profoundly erotic.
Yeah. Profound. Well, yeah, eventually to a disturbing degree. That's a show. That guy.
That's a show, and that's a guy like an IRL demon.
Yeah. Terrible, monster, awful, actually. Awful monstrous.
Without euphemism of any kind, an actual abuser and...
Yeah. No bones about John. I mean, it sucks because they hated him on the show too because he was a terrible guy, and it sucks that all the work of all those other guys, and I don't want to get into their level of complicit. That's another conversation. But the thing about John Kay though is every animator, every modern, he's very influential, and there's nothing you can do. His work is,
and there's something horrible to consider there is that he that work is fascinating, and I'm glad that other people were able to take that inspiration and iterate it and reify it someplace outside of his dark nimbus.
Yeah.
Because we know people personally who were in that context, and it was nightmarish.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, but yeah, just we always, every mention of Ren and Stimpy must be mentioned with when we denounce John Kay. We must denounce John. I've written a comic about it.
Gotta happen.
Yeah, you gotta say. But the thing is, but yeah, and it's like a trope that comes up, like when you're queer, and there's tons of queer content now, and I'm super happy about that. But when you're growing up, you sort of attach queer elements to anything that you can find, and this dynamic, this sort of like the basically blonde and brunette dynamic, as a Mulholland Drive, Betty and Veronica, classic dynamic presents itself again and again, and you sort of latch onto that relationship. But it's also how a lot of queer relationships happen to begin with, where there's one queer person who's more uninhibited and who initiates a more inhibited queer person into it, which is very much the story of the Omen and Jim Darkmagic story you sent me. There's
something revelatory about it for sure. And when I was writing so this is, technically speaking, it's all part of a project that we did where it was for the Acquisitions Incorporated, D&D live show stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I basically said that I would write a book about how they met. And then we had another show coming up, and I was just like, I'm hoping that people actually do want that. And then just to sweeten the pot, I'm like, I will also write the version that you demand, the version that you crave within. And I will absolutely do the romance version of it. But I started by reading a bunch. Mm-hmm. And I have versions of this that are a lot more explicit. Mm-hmm. And I think that I can get more into that. I mean, theoretically, this is a novella because I want to write more. Mm-hmm. And I want it to come out faster.
Yeah.
And so, I'm hard at work on the second one already. But the basic idea of this is that after I had written it the other way, I really wanted the feeling like the first love yearning was more interesting, fun, and sweet to write.
Yeah.
And so eventually I ended up doing it that way just because it felt so much better. I think it works either way for sure.
Yeah, well, you've captured an element there. I mean, you have captured, if I may, at least in my experience, an element of that where, you don't know about, because I don't know if it's going to get distributed in any way or if other people have seen this. Yeah. But yeah.
No, you are one of only two people who has it. So.
Oh, hell yeah.
So not only is it pornography, it's rare pornography.
It is very rare penny arcade pornography. I very much enjoy it. But yeah, I think we can, I don't want to spoil anything to some degree, but in the book, it's very much about, it's a young Omen. A young Omen is being faced. He meets Jim Darkmagic in a blacksmith.
Carnal way.
That way. And you see his internal, he has a girlfriend, but he's just I don't know, can't commit. What is wrong with me?
But also just feels like he's doing it because he's hit a life point, and he feels like you were talking about the idea that this Omen is on the spectrum somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that's correct because I'm also situated somewhere on one.
Yeah.
And so he thinks that it's a rule.
Yeah.
And so it's this is an experience that we have often here in the house where, when you are engaging with or encountering someone who is on the spectrum, mm-hmm. they have a set of rules that they have ascertained these are rules for living. And until they come up against something, or until there is a challenge of some kind, they essentially believe that, at least the way that it works in my house is that that's just how the world is. It's something fundamental about how the world operates. Yeah. So in the beginning of this, he says that's what you do. Yeah. He doesn't understand why it doesn't work, why it doesn't feel correct, because this is what you do.
Yeah. No, I think that's very well observed, because I think for especially, I can relate to that, because I don't know if I'm on the spectrum. Certainly a lot of people on the spectrum like my comics and say they relate to them.
Hey, so I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, I was never diagnosed, but there are some signs. Yeah, so I mean, just in the way that, like, you write Omen thinking about thought processes of how to move his arm and the correct amount of things to say to someone in order to stop a conversation.
Yes, he has lists. Yeah. He lives according to this type of programmatic system.
And that can trip you up.
Safety for him.
I came out late. I came out at 24 as bisexual, and now I came out at 34 as trans. And to me, like, a lot of what held me back was, or not a lot of, but certainly an element of what held me back was the need to preserve these very rigid rule structures, was this sort of mental...
Well, their safety.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, these are the systems that undergird your daily activity. If you don't have those systems, then how are you going to be safe when new information and new experiences come along? Yeah. And the answer, of course, is that you can't.
Yeah. Especially when you're autistic and you have to develop a lot of these rule structures, because your instinctual reactions to everything are wrong. You
get in huge trouble. You get in huge trouble for correctly observing reality. That's basically the way it gets explained to me by my eldest.
Yeah.
We've had to have this conversation. It's like, you can't just accurately describe reality. People hate it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's
how am I supposed to fucking explain this shit?
Yeah. No, well, you got to do the dance, or you got to do the freaking, I mean, that's what the novella is all about. Someone slowly realizing he doesn't have to do the dance anymore, which is, if that ain't the queer experience, just realizing, you can
dance.
Yeah. You can create a new set of rules. Actually, it's quite... Aleister Crowley.
I was just going to say, I don't know if you're familiar with Satan.
Yeah, I don't know if you are. Yeah. No, but sort of the way that helped me get out of those, or and obviously Aleister Crowley, there's an element of queerness to him. He praised androgyny, and I think Satanism is dumb. I'm not the biggest, but one thing
it has Satanism is a specific tool, and it couldn't exist without the force it's opposing, right?
Yeah.
By itself, it's hard to find the core of it.
Yeah. It needs Chris. I mean, the core of it, as LaVey said, was Ayn Rand with rituals, which is horrible. They count me out. I don't. Yeah, but in terms of stuff that Crowley said about sort of how to make what is magic, right? And to me, magic is language, right? It's words, it's suggestion, it's the power of suggestion, right?
Yeah.
And what he would say is that, magic is creating an incredibly rigid rule structure that you completely believe in and abide by in a single moment, and then being able to completely discard it and then creating a new one, And to me, that is, that is the queer experience. That is the magic, And your book is all about discovering magic, It's all about,
Absolutely. Yeah. It's about like figuring out, like, is it possible to... It's like, who am I now? Mm-hmm. And if I become someone different, if I embroider and inhabit a new identity, am I the same person?
Oh yeah. That's it. That's the thing. But I think that's a very universal theme. Like, especially for people on the spectrum, that's like, if you're cis and straight and on the spectrum, you get that. You get having to mold your body or personality to some sort of societal stricture.
Yeah. Personalities are also real, but yeah, all the subtext there, it's all completely established.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, you gotta
work.
Exactly. I mean, it's the other thing too, where it's like that negotiation with society. You know
Yes.
that as you adapt
well put.
more to society, life gets easier for you, but at the expense of losing your individuality, you know? And it's
Yeah.
the same thing with trans. It's like the more you look like a traditional woman, you know, the more it will be easier for you, but also at the expense of enforcing a toxic femininity to some degree, or enforcing like a very patriarchal view of femininity. So like,
Oh, yeah,
what do you
absolutely.
do? You know?
No, it's super complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so in a lot of that is the stuff that we have had to, over the last few years. I would say quarantine was the coming out point for my eldest, and they did it with a cake. I don't know if that's common in your community.
No. I mean, I'm sure the kids have more rituals about it because it's more of a normal thing for them. Like we didn't have that, you know. Yeah, because they're exposed to media where there's like positive coming out parties and stuff like that. That just wasn't a thing for us back in the day.
It's possible they can conceive of. They can conceive of it occurring without it being traumatic.
Yeah, back in my day, all we had was The Crying Game and Twin Peaks. But, it was like, they see Hunter Schafer on Euphoria, then it's like, it's, it can be normal or whatever,
Yeah. No, there was a cake.
Even though Euphoria is not a good show, but I like Hunter Schafer. She's good.
Well, I don't know. Like I had seen a trailer. I mean, of course I have HBO and then HBO Max and now Max. I haven't changed my subscription, but the thing I've subscribed to, maybe the service is trans.
Like, yeah. David Zaslav.
It's changed through, it's obviously, and I saw a trailer for Euphoria. Yeah. And I was like, I feel like if I watch this, I'm going to get on a list.
Yeah.
So then I don't know if it's good or bad. I just know that I would get on a list.
Yeah, no, it's in it's in that sort of Skins, Degrassi, like they're playing a little fat. I mean, Degrassi was more wholesome than that, but playing a little fast and loose with the whole, your instinct was correct. It's very bizarre in that way, and but
no, the cake just as something to do your spirit good, and provide comfort in a world gone wrong.
Yeah.
The cake, they made the cake, first of all, so we didn't even have to make the cake or buy it. So, first of all, free cake.
They're a good chef. They're a good baker.
The cake just said, I am trans, my name is Samantha.
Hell yeah.
I'm just saying that this happened in my house, and the house did not burn down. You know what I mean? That lightning did not strike it.
Yeah.
It turned out fine.
That's great. I mean, like, did you have any inkling or like, were you prepared for it? And so was there initial period of shock or were you just like fully on like, fuck yeah, we're doing this,
Well, I would say, let me think. It wasn't a huge surprise to me, but also I saw it when it was in the fridge.
Yeah.
And so I got a little preview.
Yeah.
I looked inside the box.
Yeah.
Right? Just because I love cake.
Sure, you got it.
I think it's a pretty common feature. Yeah. But I'm trying to think. Not exactly, but there were definitely things where I was like, I bookmarked.
Yeah.
Where they never really had a sense of themselves, like in physical space.
Yeah.
Like they never apportioned any energy around like how they presented in the world.
Yeah.
And then they really started to.
Yeah. You got,
It started with the hair.
Yes.
And so they had quite short hair, and now their hair is like to the top of their pants.
Hell yeah.
It's like, it's crazy. I'll send you a picture like this mop. And of course it's like, it's all redheads over here. So it's completely insane. It's
freaking
really,
Merida.
It's
Merida
really striking,
from Brahe.
Actually.
Yeah.
No, very much. And so I think that when that shift occurred, just because I know them quite well, when that shift occurred, I put like a bookmark in it to say, I'm gonna check back in with this. I'm not gonna get in the way of it, just because this is true for both of my kids. Like, I can't. It's really, really. You have to parent these crafty beasts, so carefully. Like, you have to, because their instinct is to not let you do it. Right? They don't want to be parented. They are very big. You know, they're very old. They know all the stuff. Oh, yeah. They're not interested in any additional input from dad. But I've been alive for a super long time, and so I'm compelled to try to help them contextualize things that are complex. And so I have to parent very carefully around those sorts of things and come in when I think I can actually offer help. But generally speaking, with that, I was like, this is something that they're doing, and it was such a marked shift that I was like, we're gonna check back in with this. And then by the time it was time to check back in, they brought a fucking cake out, and it sort of explained the whole thing. So that's convenience itself.
Yeah, well, you just sort of had an instinct, and so your initial reaction, because if I started appearing femmier, or I started going with that, I don't think my parents' reaction would have been like to calmly observe it. Or, my mom maybe, but, my dad definitely had the Catholic thing in him and like, it's good. Don't do this, Yeah. But
for Sam, who, I mean, you're going to hear me refer to the Silk.
Yeah.
That's also Sam. Same person. Yeah. But so when they were, the truth is that it's just like a verbal tick basically, but I have to have nicknames. I can't say the same thing. I can't say the same word. The same thing over and over.
Yeah. You got synonym issues.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so I have to, I have never referred to them as their old name. I mean, for probably a decade. Mm-hmm. Right?
Oh yeah.
And so the transition on that was, and no one really did.
Yeah. I got that too.
Had a nickname. It was so like, that part of it was so trivial. Like, that part was so smooth and clean.
Oh yeah, and having an in-between nickname, amazing for like people call me House, right? So it's just it was yeah.
You're done. Or not Decline.
Not Decline, no. Although the reason why the name started was because it was my abandoned drag queen persona, Naomi Decline, based off of Naomi, and the Schlock doctrine, all that, which I think she's made a joke about that before. And be another doppelganger to her because she got Naomi Wolf as her doppelganger. So now I'm
they're
her.
Piling up.
Yeah, they're piling up. There's so many Naomi Kleins out there. They do call me Mr. Clyde sometimes, and I'm very happy when they call me Mr. Clyde.
Oh, and so, but you were wondering like, how did the initial?
Well, it's just because
go. I think that we were, I had. So my sister had come out as a lesbian when she was, 15.
Yeah.
And it was hell on earth.
Oh no. Because that was the 90s. That was fuck.
It was hell on earth. Yeah. And it didn't stop being bad for decades.
Yeah. Like, what would she go through? Just, the usual, like, abuse and homophobia and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, certainly Spokane is not without its share of such things. But I mean that it makes things complicated in your house if you are in an evangelical church.
Yeah.
And they have some very specific ideas around, what would now be called conversion therapy.
Yes.
And a very, very, they have a very particular, like, origin story for this. At least they did in our church, where, I don't, as we said, words are spells, right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to reify. I'm not trying to create this for anyone. But what they told my poor mother was that if you had an absent father, and of course our father had left us.
Yeah.
and then a domineering mother, which my mother was not.
Yeah.
But they gave her a ready-made framework for this to be her fault.
Oh, yeah.
And for it to be a fault of our wicked and fallen family, that we were generating these freaks. And that's the most, that idea took decades to dig out.
Yeah.
Of my family.
Oh yeah, the curse aspect, the whole curse aspect.
Yeah, it's in your blood somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like life is already really difficult.
No, I had that. You know, I know the curse aspect because that's how I sort of conceptualized it. Is that for all the generations of my past family,
you did it to yourself?
Well, I mean, by like undoing it, by conceptualizing it, I could then break it by actually coming out as so.
You had to model it.
Yeah, my last name is Hood. So they used to be admiralty, like naval tradition, like really bad British. I'm almost certain one of my ancestors did terrible things in the Boxer Rebellion. And, you know, I have this very strange thing where they did something terrible. And then like the Ranma half guy came out and it's like, all of your sons will be daughters from now on. And then, you know, for the years, the admiral tradition, story. You know, it was over, you know, now they were just producing, you know, artists, because that's all my family was. For some reason, at some point, they stopped being naval people and started being like artists, and not just artists, like femi, like surprisingly, and like this, you know, and this like he passed on this girl curse to the male inheritors of the family, and I was finally able to break it by admitting that I was a girl, and that's, you know, if I choose to have spawn, you know, they won't be cursed anymore.
So what you're saying is that art can heal.
Yes, exactly. Eventually, over the course of generations, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds pretty. I mean, that's good. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, you have plied your trade on this one, madam, to be sure.
Yeah, no, but no, I completely understand. I mean, my dad's Catholic too, and you know, I don't blame. You know, we're not talking it's bad. I have a whole episode about that, but it's like I really, to some degree, just like your mom, I don't blame him. This is the framework he was handed, and you know,
and also, but it really should be said is that, you know, having come up in this context, right? Mm-hmm. Some of that stuff is not biblical.
Oh yeah.
Some of these ideas, like there's no place in the Bible that iterates the specific way that these domineering mothers annihilate their lineage.
Yeah.
By producing gays. That's not in the Bible. You know what I mean? Like some of these things are just reflexes.
Yeah, or British. A lot of these are British. Yeah.
And we don't need them. Like they're not producing, they are not delivering, they're not sparking joy.
Marie Kondo.
You know, to the extent that those things exist inside the church, it's just that churches are repositories of rules of various kinds. And I think that you can probably agree with me here when I say that, like, a lot of that stuff I still live by.
Oh yeah. Well, there's
I don't
tons
live
of
by
Christian,
the stuff that has as its purpose the destruction of like myself or my children or my family. Yeah. Like I don't follow those rules, but the whole thing is not. It isn't just like some den of iniquity.
No.
It's that these reflexes get tucked into the rest of these systems, and they generate these really, really negative externalities.
Oh yeah.
When you start applying inflexible rules to real life.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you talk about, you know, doing damage on a neurodivergent kid by exposing them to this incredibly advanced rule structure with all this arcane, irresistible lore,
like
you know,
ABA and shit. Like there's some really dark techniques that people suggest to try to break your children out of these things.
Oh yeah.
It's growing up with that neuro D child is there's everybody is trying to get you to give them several $1,000s so that they'll be able to abuse your child in a way that'll change their shape permanently. Yeah. It's a dark fucking space.
I mean, I guess, maybe you could trace your general acceptance of queerness to the fact that, you had a similar experience growing up as different in this thing that despises difference.
It's possible. I think that because I sort of had to just model all of these interactions, and I had to like invent a person who could perform them.
Yeah.
And that's basically how it went. But I think that the main thing was just seeing like how things went with my sister.
Oh yeah. And yeah, you love her, and you don't want her to see pain come to her.
She's really cool, actually.
Yeah. I bet she balls.
She's tough. Well, but also it's just like things. That's just sort of how things went in my family. Like things didn't line up. It seemed like the way that they should. Right.
Yeah.
My sister, her cultural role in the family was son.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. She was dad's favorite. They would do all of the stuff that he wanted to do with a son. That I had no
fishing and into, sports and all that.
Every now and then, I remember when I was like 15 or 16, I was like, I'm just going to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to fucking do all of it. I'm going to get good at these sports.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
No.
Long story short, I had a good time there at first base for the duration of my tour. But broadly speaking, that was not a performance I could maintain for very long.
Yeah. Talk about, performing as, that's what you do. You perform masculinity, or the type of masculinity that's it. But I imagine, like, for me, like, a lot of what holds you back too is like a lot of older men tend to put their failed ambitions into you. They're like,
yes.
I fucked up with my life, but here's like this fresh man that I can put some of myself into. And I did it work that way for your sister and your mom, where she was like, okay, I'm this failed woman, and it's up to me to make sure this woman doesn't fail,
Yeah, I think that you've probably scratched the surface of something really, really true there.
Yeah.
And that's that, and that's part of where these things come from. So it's like, if we try to figure out why that level of response was appropriate, it wasn't just that the church had said it was appropriate. There's something else there too, and that's that, it's entirely probable that, my mom had a very specific idea and a plan, mm-hmm. and a vision of how these things would unfold for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And when it doesn't happen that way, it starts getting into your identity. Mm-hmm. But we can't do this to our children. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
We can't do that. They can't be our orbiting satellites, and they can't be where we keep the remainder of our shames and things that we couldn't get to, and all the things that we wish that we had been able to accomplish, just if things were different. But these are just systems that you're just giving them what other people gave you. Like that can't be the system.
Yeah.
Those bonds, they start out a certain way, but those family bonds eventually have to be earned.
Yeah.
Right? There's a launch phase where they require your protection.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it has to be something that you earn.
Yeah.
By reliably being there as a source of information and comfort and joy and guidance when necessary, but it can't be compulsory.
Yeah, you can't be an antagonist to them. You can't put strictures around them. You can't tell them what to be. That's like, my mom struggled with this, because she's very classic Jewish mother. Alex, he's so smart. You got to be a doctor or a lawyer. None of it. But, and I did. I went to law school. I was I was miserable. And she eventually acknowledged it. She, for a while.
Was the law your softball?
Yeah. In a way. Yeah, actually, I never tried to get good at sports. I never made that attempt. Actually, what was my softball was more punk music. But the thing is, punk music's already kind of queer too. So it's like there's like.
But that it seems like that didn't go away.
No,
like,
that stuck actually.
Before I started following you, I didn't know that you were kicking out tracks like at a but like at a clip, at a speedy clip.
Oh, that's been recently. I've just been. Sometimes I compulsively you get the song monster in you, and you got to write.
Yeah, I thought Prophecy was really interesting.
Oh, you listened to my. Oh, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Oh no, I am also a musician.
Yeah. What's your? I remember your band being called. It's not The Fine Print, is it? It's
no. The Fine Print is that was the band that I had right after high school, and then. Before that, it was the Righteous Corn Farmers. But I've had lots of different musical projects since then, and then I'm always trying to add music. Like whenever there's another project, like my feeling is like, well, it could certainly use a song. And so I used to run like a spin-off game of Acquisitions Incorporated for a while at the office, and I wrote a couple different songs for that. But no, it's really, really like. What's funny is that like that's for me that's sort of like that's like the one that got away.
Yeah, the music thing. It's
I want that's just what I want to do so bad. And then every now and then, like every few weeks, I remember that I really can just pick up the instrument and play it and record it. Like I don't know what the mental aspect of it is. There's lots of other things I guess I should be doing or prioritizing, but I never emerge from writing a song with less energy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's always like I mean, you write even your prose is very poetic. You know, it has that constant, ever-changing synonym thing.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you have interpreted my disease.
Oh no. Well, you know,
maximum. With the maximum charity.
Look, I love the phrase "rain slick precipice of darkness." That shit is, that shit is burned into my brain permanently. Also, let's go hammer nails into our dicks. That's another Penny Arcade thing that lives in my brain.
You're talking about formative content there for your own twisted works.
Exactly. That's all. That one specifically, because that one has you playing the really big Xbox controllers, which was the joke at the check. Yeah, that one I have very fond memories of that.
We were satisfied with less, you know, in these heady times. we were just happy when the JPEG got entirely onto the screen. We were satisfied with that.
Yeah, actually, that I was going to say before, because that was the arc of Penny Arcade, and what's still thrilling about webcomics, what's amazing about watching a webcomics is seeing someone in an initially sort of amateurish state, get inexplicably popular for some reason just because they happen to walk across the zeitgeist or whatever.
It sneaks up on you for sure.
And then they don't fuck it up. They make good. They just keep improving. They use the ample popularity and the money and like this time and space to like really perfect. And that was always great about seeing you and Gabe, like especially in the early days, just seeing rapidly increase your artistic and writing abilities just because you had the time and space to do so. That's the dream, right?
Well, and we had this external force, this schedule, which for us, like that's the best thing that it best thing that it is. I mean, Penny Arcade is essentially at root a schedule. Yeah, and the fact that it gave us this opportunity to do so much stuff fast over and over again for years and years and years. And so that, I can sit down like in front of Google Docs and write a novel because I've been writing like little things all the time, but I could string a bunch of little things together and now it's a fucking book. Yeah. But that happened because I've been doing the other thing for like 25 years. It's crazy.
Actually, in terms of like the one that got away too, did you have like a Wall of Sean at the My Dinner with Andre moment when like PAX started popping off and you found yourself as like a businessman? Was that like something you had ever envisioned for yourself? And like, was that like, I gotta focus on money now. I used to think about all art in my 20s and now it's just all about money,
No, I mean, So depending on the era that we're talking about, it's entirely possible that there would be somebody whose job it was just to do business stuff.
Yeah.
In the modern era, that's mostly me. But you know, it has to be done in order for the art to have its space. And so trying to create as much space for art and creative work to occur, that is the job. And it's, you know, it isn't like a regular business job because its purpose is different. But the way that it works now, like the way that I think of it, is that there's actually a lot of other artists and designers that work at Penny Arcade.
Oh yeah.
And they need that space too. And so, you know, for me, that's a really important, really meaningful thing to be able to carve out a little bit of space and time for people to explore these creative concepts and do the best work that they can. Like,
oh yeah,
I think that it isn't, there's definitely aspects of it that are inimical to the creation of art.
Oh yeah.
The mental process, like the gear shift, is very, very different from making art. But I think that it is possible to do that in a way that is humane.
Oh yeah. Well,
and that's not always that isn't always how it's worked.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's sort of like if I ever get, you know, to where I start employing people, because you were talking about before, I think we were talking about before the show, the curse of being like somewhat popular is that, you know, me, I'm not at your guys' level, you know, but I have some measure of online notoriety. And the thing that
you have more followers on Twitter than me.
Yeah, but Twitter is like, you know, on Instagram, I'm nothing. I got friends with like 1 million followers on Instagram, and I'm working at like 23,000.
In the circles that you run in.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, you guys are still like rare for webcomics. You guys still get pretty. I don't know what your raw page views on the website, because like the blog is still there. Like I'm sure it's not what it was in like the 2000s or whatever.
Oh, that was a crazy time for sure. Yeah. But no, and that's the thing that I think is really interesting. So if you are Ancient of Days,
yeah.
If you are the serpent that gnaws at the roots of Yggdrasil,
yeah,
like myself,
yeah,
you know. It's really interesting to see, because essentially what happened is that they have, when I say they, I mean our masters,
yeah,
have invented a sequence of slightly different but equally fake internets. False. Monstrous places of dominion.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, but what is interesting to me is how much pull people have in each of these different contexts.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like, because people can be godlike in one of these fake internets.
Yeah.
But then in the other 3 fake internets,
yeah,
they don't exist, functionally speaking. So the idea that like success, like as a universal, we talked about this before the mics went on.
Yeah,
it's like, what is the statistic that is the salient statistic on an internet where they've essentially carved it into these intranets that are that aren't really referenced to each other, right? Yeah. And so our seat of power in the modern world is the website itself.
Yeah,
like that's where, and that's millions of views. But if you go out to like the Instagram,
yeah,
that's one of the other lands.
Yeah. Well, there's no need for it, because
that's one of these fairy kissed lands, you know, in the West.
Well, because the best format for Penny Arcade, and it's like, I'm sure you're one of the few websites out there that is still getting like decent page views just because you just formatted it such that, yeah, like it's, but it's also like, because the way that you would read a Penny Arcade is that you would read the blog entry first and find out what it's about. Then you would read, or you would do it in reverse order. But it's very important that you read both the comic and the blog entry as well.
It's one piece, or at any rate, it's intended to be.
Yeah. Because it was industry news, it was opinion, it was, all sorts of, but
esoteric.
But back to the initial point of that was that, you see, if you are any measure of popularity, you see other people who are way more talented than you, who are languishing in obscurity because they don't hit the algorithm as well for whatever reason.
Yes, and to me, that's the thing that I hate.
Yeah. But you get the opportunity to hire people and like make good.
Yes,
that's the dream,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. And then wherever you can, it's like you can make these links and you can send those links out. But the algorithmic chokehold on how things move around and travel is so. I mean, one hesitates to use inimical more than once in a half hour.
Yeah, but you gotta, even your synonym disease will, will yield to that.
It's essentially like, this is the way that this functions. Is fundamentally unlike the internet, and I mean that like as a concept, as a device, as a philosophy. These feeds are fucking weird.
Yeah.
And I think the most fascinating aspect of watching it shift and change.
Yeah.
Because I have a For You tab on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Weird tab.
TikTok. On TikTok, the For You tab is the base unit. That's the base unit. Is For You. Yeah. And so you can just see like this next fake internet that they've made. The base unit is fully algorithmic. Yeah. It isn't about who I'm following or I'm going to go to this place, because it's like I can look at my Google stats now and this is people coming. There's some links and every now and then something escapes containment and infects others and they return to me for the inoculation. This occurs.
Yeah.
But broadly, most of them are going to the website, like as a statistical matter, like they're just coming right there.
Yeah.
And that base unit, that the colloquial part of it, for me, that's one of the things, like from that weirdo handmade internet. And I don't think that it's just nostalgia. I think
it was better. I remember it. It was better.
No, it's like, because this is the thing. It's like we have to always be conscious of the scourge of nostalgia. Like, of course, I understand that it wasn't a pristine Elysium, and I understand that it had its own challenges. But what it did not have was a multipolar global megacorp entrenched power, net around how information travels.
Yeah.
That I reserve the right to say that I don't like that. I think it's weird.
It's funny to think that
it hasn't gotten less weird.
Yeah. I mean, it predates Facebook. It predates, all of these social media websites. Does it predate Google?
Yes.
Does it? That's fucking wild to think about. So you guys come from a place where just no one had really figured out how to monetize the internet yet. And that's why it was good, because no one was doing it for money. People were just doing it as like, here's a way to communicate with other weirdos,
Here. Now, Google, the search product, I want to emphasize this.
Yeah.
Google was founded 2 months before our first strip.
That's crazy.
But we had made the strips before that. So now we're getting into slicing hairs. But Google was not the creature it is now.
Yeah.
That was just a search engine.
Yeah, it was
right?
just Sergey and Larry in a garage.
Yeah, and it was possible to get good at it. Like that's one of the things I thought was interesting about the older versions of Google was that it was actually a skill that you could build. In the same way that people talk about prompt engineering now.
Yeah.
Like you could find really novel, really specific information if you were good at it. And of course, having grown up with, text adventures and, Sierra Online.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've been training my whole life.
My entire goddamn life for this.
Right?
Yeah.
I had the skills.
And and now, I mean, Google, like the search is so fucking dire. But, it always...
It's dire.
This grand hollowing out of potential was the history of the internet. All of these dead links on the horizon, it's all this... Think about like the grand utopian vision of the San Francisco ex-hippie guys from the early 90s who will be like, and it just all got dashed away as everyone realized that you could get free money by doing like cheap VC bucks of shovelware. And,
Well, and so, I mean, do you occasionally, and I think that we're all sort of like this, do you occasionally fantasize about Federation?
How do you mean?
I mean, do you ever think about Federation and just float away in a cloud of erotic bliss?
Sure. Okay, what do you mean by Federation? Because, my only I don't know what context you're using. My only thing for the Federation is Star Trek. So when you say Federation, like consolidation.
Oh, I mean federated servers and data.
Oh, you see, I'm not tech literate enough. I'm hyper Luddite, which is why I draw on. What do you explain that to me? Explain it to me as I'm a tech idiot.
Here. This is the thing. No one can explain it.
Okay.
No one is going to be able to explain it to anyone's satisfaction. But it is a different way of modeling the relationship that we have to specifically around social media is like where people are thinking about it the most right now. Mm-hmm. But in a lot of ways, it's a philosophical return to earlier internet concepts.
Right. Yeah.
So the idea that all of these things exist in their own sort of fiefdoms, as they exist now, in some cases, like really sort of walling other services out. They all require their own, sign-ins and things like this. Mm-hmm. Federation is essentially a way to move information around the internet to other people in a way that where everybody owns all of their own stuff, and the base unit of it is just how you are looking at it instead of who owns it. And I mean, I'm fascinated by it because my background is in IT, and so we had to like do all of our first websites and shit. Had to go to Whois. But, you know how it is.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's a philosophical way of looking at who owns data, where is it, how do you gain access to it, and I know this be a universal way of approaching it. And so where you might have seen it is when they talk about Blue Sky being federated, Mastodon, Threads is
government Twitter, a public social media as a public utility and not as a private.
And just the reason I asked is one, I hope that you could explain it to me, and two, it really seems to me like something has to give, and not just because I don't like it, but because I don't understand what we as citizens or consumers, I don't understand how we benefit from the way that this works now. So I would like it to work a different way.
Well, so two things come to mind when you mention that or explain that federated stuff to me. Is like the first is one of the tragedies of NFTs that I think people didn't consider at the time because they didn't necessarily understand because there is an actually very cool aspect about the technology, which unfortunately got monetized into bullshit apes. But the idea of having a public ledger where there is a file and you know exactly what the unique file is and you can trace its ownership, that's brilliant. But it immediately got fucked because
and again, like it's because the people who if you saw a technology like that, and your idea for what to do with it was NFTs, like, that just says that the wrong people are the ones that are interpreting these.
It's the most powerful archiving technology we have, and it's being used for the worst bullshit imaginable. This is like, we could do Library Alexandria shit. Library has to be burned again if we ever use this fucking technology correctly. But we don't.
But if you talk to, if you talk to engineers about like what these things can actually be used for, they have all kinds of ideas. Unfortunately, like, they're busy at their job. Which is, you need, I mean, as silly as it sounds, that's why you need humanities people. You need philosophers to understand, take the raw information these tech people give you and shape it into something that resembles something that will progress this technology philosophically and morally. Well, but I'm pretty sure that you're just talking about culture.
Yeah, that's culture as well. I mean, we did see culture. That. Yeah, backlash against NFTs was culture to some degree because, I think instinctively they understood, and crypto is like, I'm obviously
you're bullish on crypto. Obviously, you're a hodler.
I'm big on that. I'm a regular. As Sam Bankman fraud, I'm a regular.
Oh, damn!
I'm sticking it to him, sticking it to that guy.
That'll teach him.
But crypto, the only uses, the uses that I see it for, there are actually some practical uses of crypto, which is basically funneling money to people where it's hard to get to them. Like for Gaza, for Palestine, it's actually quite useful crypto for getting money over there, or especially for sourcing DIY hormones as well. And crypto is quite useful.
I have heard about this phenomenon as well from a trans girl that lives in this house.
There you go. Yeah. I know.
I'm getting all kinds of like. I'm getting a lot of secondhand, info from them, and it's just stuff. It's stuff that my mom wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah, just didn't have the schema for it. Just didn't have the.
She wouldn't have had the fucking tools, like.
Showing your mother Sophie. You should show your mother Sophie.
It's like, because they're talking to me about like just a lot of language, and so of course that is always along a pathway that I am familiar with, and frankly, take extra damage from. Like, I can't not observe that stuff. But they're like fears that my mother would never, like, she would have had no place for any of this.
Oh yeah.
Like, I was never worried about being clocked. Like, that's
the fact that that word is very funny.
I'm about to dish up. We're gonna get into it.
Get into it. Yeah, get into all your terms, the terms that you know.
So obviously, like, that's not something that would have like been. And so it's like you have to invent new forms of parenting. And I think the parents have always had to do it, but parents have not always had to encounter this.
Yeah.
This is quite novel. Yeah. And so if you are not, let's say, just for an example, that you aren't seeing what was promised in your transition in your own body. And so I have had the privilege and benefit of learning the term hundos. And I'm like, you gotta sit me down
all
here.
The 4chan TTT language spilled over.
But this is the thing. That spillover. Yeah. Like, those terms get caught, picked up, and then like brushed off, repurposed for internal use. Because it talks to things. It talks to novel kinds of fears that parents have not had to help people with before.
Yeah. And you want to do right by your kid, and you don't know anything about this, so now you got to do the research. Yeah.
No. And I'm like, no, trust me. Like, out here, It's just the regular dose. I'm out here and I can see.
Yeah.
It's happening. You know, just trust me. It's a process.
Oh yeah. Well, my mom is going to. She's been great. You know, I'm weird with my dad, but my mom has been like fully. I love you. I don't understand. I bought the books. I bought the book by the lady who was on the WB. She's the first trans superhero on the WB, and I'm reading the trans books, and they're all about. They all have like quotes from Ovid's Metamorphosis at the beginning, and they're all very flowery. You know, it's the type of but I think it's good.
At least it's not Kafka's Metamorphosis.
No, I mean, talk about, would HRT have saved her? That's a very classic would HRT have saved her thing. But I'm sure your kid has told you about those jokes as well.
No. But it's an honor, right? At the end of the day, it's like, it's an honor to like be thrust into a completely, to me, alien realm of like being a teenager sucks shit.
Oh yeah. And
this is like a rich new way of it sucking shit. with a lot of really sophisticated contours.
Oh yeah.
That, we rarely get all the way to the bottom to because we have to deal with all the rest of this shit.
Oh yeah. But to me, that is why queer and transness and queerness is beautiful, because it's the promise of newness. It's the promise of novelty. It's more color. It's more variety. And, the people that hate variety most of all are, the right-wing people, or the people with this anti-varietal thought, or, people who are really burdened by these very oppressive rule structures, people like your mom, or people, or closeted versions of myself, these like things that you get in your head for comfort and safety that end up harming you in the end.
Well, exactly. It's you're getting cut on your own barbed wire.
Yeah.
And, and the truth is that, when you get right down to it, like the experience that my mom had with these systems was one of, shame.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say that's definitely my, that's my bugaboo. I have all
shame.
Kinds of that's like sort of the classic. I think I'm not saying that I'm unique in that at all, but I think that I'm capable of experiencing quite a lot of it in a unique way. At this point, I'm like proud of it. It's like a gym.
Yeah, you got the shame.
It's like,
look, you're humming
more shame on the bar.
Yeah, there's some sort of extremely tired Japanese salaryman out there who thinks he's the most ashamed guy in the world, and you're like, fuck you, buddy. Fuck you, Keitaro.
Come over here.
Yeah,
right? But that's the main thing. Just that I wanted to say, just as a moment of grace.
Yeah.
For her is that this happened as long as it did because she was given this shame, and then she felt all of it. And she didn't have to. No one had to feel that. No one. The world is not a better place because she suffered for 20 years. It's just not the case.
On our last episode, we were talking about Tatsuya Ishida of Sinfest, which is talk about a journey of shame right there.
Yeah. And I think, and because I think that when you look at the arc and you go back through the strips, it's always like this pinballing between the most extreme positions on every topic. Yeah. Well, because when you can't construct yourself, when you have no idea what that integral character of you is, you have to inhabit characters. There's no other way. You have to inhabit different holograms, And that's what you're doing when you're, it's what you, that's how it felt like me. That's how it's like is that term
holograms?
No, I was saying that way of describing it. Is that one of the tools that you came up with to understand your own
Oh yeah,
scenario?
very well, because it was like, to me, I wondered. I thought a lot about. Did you ever see the movie Blonde, or like sort of, or even in Twin Peaks, or
Sure.
Evangelion?
I'm quite conversant with Twin Peaks.
With Rei Ayanami. But the idea that Twin Peaks is all about tulpas, right? And specifically women tulpas, women who are constructed, who are then made to be sacrificed, like Diane in The Return, or Laura Palmer herself. She is a constructed woman, and she is made to be sacrificed. She is not, as Diane says, right as she's about to get, I'm not me, I'm not me. But that's how it felt being a boy, actually. That's how it felt being, it's like, I'm not me, I'm not me. This is like a series of tropes that I have strung. Someone made me, someone manufactured me. And when you finally, like, you stop feeling like a tulpa when you finally admit, I'm the right, this is the gender I am. Then you feel solid. Then you feel like,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And that was, to me, that was how I thought of it. It was like there was a boy version of me in my head who was a flitting hologram in and out of existence.
But was constructed.
Yeah. Like a composite character. Like it was a series of tropes. Yeah. In illusion, which is like, it's funny. My mom said to me when I was talking to my mom about this, like, well, Alex, you've always been an actor. Maybe you're taking on women because you're hanging around them a lot more and you're like mimicking them. And as I realized, no, that was why I was a boy. That's what I was doing.
Oh, wow. So obviously big ups to mom.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, I love my mom. I have a great relationship with her and she's been very nice on it. But yeah, she was sort of, I mean, I was so good at playing a boy. I played one on television for a while, and that was
really,
yeah, that'll mess you up. Yeah.
Well, on Arthur, like an animal boy.
An animal boy, but on live action too. There's footage of live action me out there, like on some obscure Canadian Disney Channel show, which is very funny. But yeah, that's, to me, that, like, and it's something that you even touch on in the Omen book that you get correct, which is that feeling like you're not real or not complete, or there's some sort of flitting out of reality aspect to you until you finally discover your sexuality and what makes you whole.
Yeah, or you're not finished.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah.
And you need to be done just to hold all of you in.
Yeah. Yeah, that sort of, you feel like I don't know anything about Deleuze's body without organs, except for the phrase body without organs. And that's how it feels, it feels like I describe it as feeling like baloney all the way through. I'm just made of, if you cut my arm, it would just be like a farce.
Amalgam.
Yeah, just an amalgam all the way through. But now that I am the right gender, or have internalized I am a woman, it's like I can feel my organs now. I can feel like I have this increased amount of physical awareness, which is just I never had access to before.
I mean, when I was a younger person, I struggled. I don't even know. Is it aphasia?
Aphasia?
Is that the term?
I don't know.
Let me see.
The language thing, or like I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure.
See. I think that may.
I've heard it before.
No, that's different. It's essentially, there were times, and I haven't experienced it for years now, thank God. But where it's like the needle skipped on my consciousness.
Yeah.
And when it was not in the groove, I could not ascertain the underlying reality of anything. And that included myself. And the horror of it is that obviously I'm here.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking of it. It's like, that was good enough for Descartes. but I have to fucking reinvent the whole thing. But that sounds quite scary.
Oh yeah. It's what you're talking about is like, you know the term semantic satisfaction?
No, but I'm willing to subscribe.
It's when you say a word over and over again, and then the word stops making sense. Like you say,
oh yes, it often happens in writing too.
Yeah, and that's what it's sort of like. Is that especially that's like a very common neurodivergent experience, and why there's like a big crossover between neurodivergence and gender nonconformity is because once you start thinking about something a lot and saying the same word over and over again, you realize none of this makes any sense. There are no rules. There are no goddamn rules. This was all just a construction, and we can break it at any time.
It's a galactic scale Outback Steakhouse. Right?
Yeah.
All laws are suspended.
Yeah. And once you get into that state, and which is especially bad if you're like neurodivergent and you like literally need a rule structure in order to function. Once you start,
they construct them. They just manufacture, at least again in my experience. Yeah. The rules the scaffold of rules around you are a really, really big part of what keeps it coherent.
Yeah. Because otherwise, it's that like sense of choice blindness, that sense.
Oh my God! Yeah. We have seen these dynamics.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to talk about when we were talking about Federation, the other thing that it reminded me of is, do you remember the Silicon Valley show?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's aspects of that I think there's actually scenes from that I still look back on.
Oh, it's really funny.
As my treat, like especially coming from IT, like I have met a lot of these archetypes.
Oh yeah. It's a Mike Judge show. He's always fun. The cast of that show, it's like, the Days of Future Past the cover, it's like, yeah. But, the show is it's weird that it has such little cultural impact for like how much of a good show it actually is, how quality of a show it is.
It's strong. Great intro too.
Oh yeah. Bom, 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 bom. But the tobacco song. Yeah. Fantastic. But yeah, in the final seasons of that show, it becomes about a decentralized internet, which I always thought, I don't understand the technology behind that. But the idea that instead of servers, you can just use the compute power from each phone to store data on every phone at once, which is
it's a little, as a practical matter, it's a little sci-fi, but we need science fiction to construct the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at
now the conversation is about chips that are capable of running models, software models for AI type tasks, like on the individual phone. That's would almost certainly be a precursor to a very, very different way of interacting with each other. Now, of course, these phones and these chips are controlled by corporations. Let's be very clear. This is not the whole answer, but that's a new state of play.
Yeah. That's also part of built into the Silicon Valley show, where the inherent irony of, Richard Hendricks trying to do this noble thing, but still being a private company that makes $1 billion off of it. And eventually the technology, it's got one of the like most perfect series finales as well as, just a really good show. Unfortunately marred by the association with its problematic cast members. But, Yeah,
I'm familiar with a couple.
Yeah. I don't want to get into it. I don't want it, but it's like
we need not.
No,
just know that. Just know that I know they're villains.
I am aware. But Zach Woods, one of my favorite. He didn't do anything bad, and his stuff in the show is so fucking funny. He is like the funniest fucking shit. His Jared character in that show. So it's
Oh yeah. That we always like that. We always like that type of character. I think that we recognize that character. Yeah. We have a kinship with that character.
Oh yeah, accommodating to a fault, like just constantly taking it, I've been like that. That's sort of, in the realm of why I felt closer to, because Zach Wood said he modeled that character after his mom, right? Who is just this endlessly accommodating woman. And
dark twist.
Yeah, dark twist. Is Zach Woods in Silicon Valley? Maybe there's a gender aspect. No, probably. Chris Diamantopoulos is so funny. This guy, he fucks, so many great lines in that show. That concept of a decentralized internet, or the idea that, because in terms of like big roadblocks to preventing a good internet, the fact that Amazon owns 70% of the servers is like a huge problem.
Yeah. And so again, if you come back from old school IT, like it's the whole idea of the internet is that it's supposed to be able to survive really significant losses in large portions of the network. And it is constructed that way for a very specific reason, which we don't need to go into right now. Nuclear war.
Yeah.
But, and so then the idea that we've consolidated it really down to 3 cloud operators, that are all of which are owned by, it's essentially the Fortune 3. And that's again, like that's an abrogation of what the network was designed to accomplish philosophically. And, and like I say, I reserve the right to be mad.
Yeah.
Like, it isn't just nostalgia. Like,
no, there was a good, I remember the good version of this. This isn't like, I'm trying to think of like stupid nostalgia. Like, this isn't like Thundercats. This isn't a shitty thing that you like. The intro was pretty good. The intro was good.
And I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that like, I want to go back to Webvan. Like, we're
going back to AOL. It's AOL chat rooms.
Listen.
Usenet.
You can find love in an AOL chat room as a young person. Believe you me.
I'm sure. I bet your kid is this far off from making like a fake GeoCities page because of this authenticity nostalgia. That's gonna happen. Wait for it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
a YMNTD.
They are dialed in. I can see Ronya doing that. The Silk, like again, like lots of challenges at various thresholds. We did our tour in the God, what are they? How do you put it? The neurodivergent medicalization complex.
The puzzle piece people.
Everybody's got great plans and great things that they want to do, and they want you to write them a big check, and then they never seem to get better. That's more or less the experience that we had when they were growing up. Yeah. They're not going to make any friends. Like they're not going to be able to engage in like a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
And they're going to college next year, and their girlfriend is with them downstairs.
Hell yeah.
All the weird shit. Like all the weird shit that they told me. I'm like, they don't have time to make a GeoCities page. They're fucking thriving.
They're living life.
They're living normal ass life, and that's taking up all their time.
And turns out the thing you had to do is just treat them normal. They didn't treat them like a fucking experiment,
Well, no, exactly right. And I got a cake out of it. So it's like, I stay winning.
You stay winning. Tycho Brahe.
It's me.
Super Dad.
It's me. Well,
there you go.
I mean, a percentage of the time, I am able to iterate my defined role without significant harm to either myself or those I'm trying to parent.
Hell yeah. That's it. I mean, did you see the movie Knock at the Cabin?
No.
I am a big Shyamalan defender in general, but I think I can pitch this movie to...
No, I think he's okay, yeah.
I think he's... Well, to me, like, what people never got about him was it's Roger Corman B movies with A movie aesthetics, right? And,
I think they may not know that they're B movies.
Yeah, because they have clunky dialogue. They're supposed to have clunky expository dialogue. That's the gag.
Did you not see the videos that he had like on Unbreakable? His like old videos he took with his camera. Yeah. It's the same stuff.
Yeah, it's but one that I would have an easy time recommending to anyone, even Shyamalan detractors, is one of his more recent ones, Knock at the Cabin.
Yeah.
With it has Dave Bautista and Jonathan Groff and a bunch of people are in it. And the premise is that it's a gay couple with their adopted kid, and they're at a cabin in the woods, and 4 people show up. And
please continue, and then I'll reveal all.
You reveal all. It's based on a book, which apparently is quite different. And you may know the book author, but there's just one line in the movie that Bautista, fucking great actor. I don't know where the hell he came from, but he's actually
he's having kind of a fun turn, right?
Oh yeah. Well, he chooses good roles. He everyone has seen his chops. The fact that he was the guy that suggested having the little glasses in Blade Runner 2049 made me respect him so much more.
It's so good. Yeah. That movie gets much worse when he leaves.
Yes. Yeah. He's magnetic.
And he's
magnetic,
at the beginning.
Yeah. Presence. Yeah.
Perfect replicant.
Yes. And yeah, it's filled with that melancholy, but resolve great way. And But yeah, Knock at the Cabin, he has this one line in the movie which just like really fucking got to me. Especially as now I've found myself in this role where, because I have a bunch of numbers next to my name now, people like young people will come to me for fucking advice and shit like that, which I don't get. I say, don't follow my advice, but here's my experience, and maybe it will match up to you.
That's a very reasonable way to impart it.
Yeah, but Bautista, what he says in the movie is something to the effect of, you have to make very sure you tell children things you only know to be true, because they'll believe anything you say. And I love that line. So
ooh, that's a cool line. I wonder if that's line from the original book.
Yeah. What do you?
I wonder if that line is like why he wanted to make a movie of that book.
I don't know, but to me, it's like the crux of the movie. That's like the line of that explains the entire, and it's like one of the most philosophically beautiful things I've ever heard, because it's like, yeah, that's the true responsibility of adulthood, is making sure you don't fuck up a kid. You're making sure you don't, like you do with other, don't put your failed ambitions to them. Allow them to like follow their instinct in a constructive way,
Yeah. But I mean, but you have to do that. Like the meta aspect of that, of course, is that you have to do that while running at top speed from your own demons. And I mean, it's a sacred task. And it's really, really difficult. It would be difficult under the best of circumstances, because you're talking about two people with completely different reference. Mm-hmm. Like it's always going to be challenging. Yeah. But I think the main thing is that they, as we were talking about before, like they can't just be an opportunity for you to live life again as a young person. Like, you have to have your own things. Yeah. I mean, that's it. A lot of parents, their kids become the thing. No, you have to have something else. You have to have like something that defines you outside of being a parent. Yeah. And also, but they need to see you do that too, because the things that you do are like the things they're authorized to do when they're older. Mm-hmm. And so they have to be able to see you engaging in your own interests. And invariably, those things are always going to be of use to them anyway. Okay, like, it doesn't mean like you don't have to necessarily fish for trout. Like, like I don't want to do absolutely everything that my dad ever did, but having to sit in that boat for a really long time and be that bored, it would be hard to imagine that didn't come up again. That learning what to do, that learning how to remain a person in the most boring scenarios possible. Oh yeah. And then what starts to happen in your mind then? I strongly suspect that being made to fish is probably not uncorrelated with being a writer. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, just being alone with your thoughts. How do I distract myself? Words in my head. That's how I will distract myself. Yeah. But yeah, even my dad, and we our relationship with our dad, everyone's weird. But I have fond memory. My dad played guitar, and he showed me, he gave me permission to say that this is a thing that adults can do. And then he gave me a guitar for my birthday, and I thank him forever for that, because it enriched my life deeply. For, whatever else that happened, it's like, yeah, you gain a lot of good stuff from your parents if they give you that permission to experience joy, which is, yeah. And I guess that's what it is. That's what it's all about. It's about giving your kids permission to experience joy, right? Absolutely. Well, and that story is not over yet either. Yeah. Right. So you Knock at the Cabin, you said you had something to say about it because the original author of the book. Isn't there some sort of... No. What I know is that I want to watch this movie very badly. Yeah. And I haven't found a window of time to do it. This is the one about... It's a apocalyptic film. Yeah. They have to kill one of their family members in order to stop the apocalypse is the thing. Listen, that sounds good. It's good. It's very good. Huge recommend. It was one of my favorite films of that of last year, 2 years ago, last year. I don't know. Yeah, I'm ready for Saw by way of M. Night. And then that's where it's going to cap out for me. Yeah. I think that's what they should do with that franchise, frankly. I think they should just start giving it to weirdo directors with really novel, interesting styles and treat it like an anthology. I think that's where it has to go now.
Yeah, or like different saws across time, or like it turns out there's some sort of saw instinct in people. Like, oh, could you like Assassin's Creed, like a 14th century saw?
Yeah, the Animus.
Yeah, future saw. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. This is what I'm talking about. Cyber saw.
yeah, cyber saw. Yeah, we're getting cyber saw, and he's going to do all sorts of technology based tortures. You know,
Cyber saw 2099. Was it?
Yeah.
That's just 2024.
Yeah, you're right.
That one's already. If you like what's happening right now, you're gonna love that movie because
I saw X. It's one of the few movies, and it's pretty funny. You know, although I feel like he should have given them a little more time. You know, that was always you did not give them. You gave them only 20 minutes. You know,
yeah, you're being weird.
Yeah.
You're just afraid that they're going to go through there and you're not going to get you to see your trap go off. Like you're giving the game away with some of this stuff, dude.
Yeah. But you know,
So are you into the horror?
I love, huge horror fan, of course. You know, you got to be. I mean, for trans people, that's like, especially body horror. You know, that's the one.
No, I have actually read that this is in fact the case.
Oh yeah, it's a very every trans person is like, yeah, Cronenberg. Yeah, I mean, I like a little. Not everyone, but you know, a lot of it's like, yeah, for some reason, just you know, all that stuff.
It awakens something in me.
Yeah, any sort of gruesome transformation sequence pushes my buttons for some reason. You know, American Werewolf in London. Why did I watch this clip over and over and over again? I'm trying to figure it out. You know,
I know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's eventually. I mean, it's not just trans people that are obsessed with body horror, but it helps. It sort of captures the mood a little.
Yeah. What do you think about Rob Zombie's films?
Fun, super fun.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think I only need them to be fun, and so I'm fine if they're just genre experiments. But I legitimately like The Devil's Rejects.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's generally thought of to be his best one. Yeah.
That's really bad. Like the feelings that you have when you're watching this movie are bad.
Yeah, very feel bad. Well, also, I will always show up for a wife guy director. I love wife guy director, like him and Paul W.S. Anderson of Resident Evil, like guys who are just, look at how hot my wife is. She's amazing. You know, I think that's a very admirable quality.
Now, hold on. Didn't I hear that Silent Hill... Didn't I hear they got the original guy back? They did.
They got the original. Wait, because the original Silent Hill movie. It's not a great movie, but it's one that I will weirdly stick up for because I think it has some good visual stuff in it. There's some interesting. It's not as bad as you would expect, which is interesting from a video game movie. Although we have good video game movies now, I guess.
It's not perfect. I will say that, and certainly as like a Silent Hill weirdo, there's all kinds of things that we can say, but there's aspects of the feeling that I think are correct.
Yes.
And so it's Christoph Gans.
Yeah.
It was probably Gone.
But I don't know.
But no, it's going to be an adaptation of Silent Hill 2, which is the most perfect. Mm-hmm. That's the most perfect Silent Hill game that you could make a direct movie adaptation of.
Yeah.
It's actually a really solid, self-contained, beginning to end story. It isn't like 1 and 3 that sort of reflect each other in different ways. Like, have you played Silent Hill 2?
Not in years, and I never completed it. But I know the games. I know all about them. They're the best games ever. As Silent Hill 2, it's like everyone cites it as the best game ever.
Well, yeah, there's plenty of... Yeah, I was going to say there's no shortage of
Pyramid
body
Head.
Horror in that one, too.
Yeah, I know about Pyramid Head. I know about the nurses. I know about, all the stuff.
But no, the takeaway from that for me was I actually I was in the final part of that run.
Yeah.
Like right at the very end of the game. And I had beaten it, and it was actually like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Perfect time to beat it, yeah.
The light, it was just flawless. So I basically experienced it under the perfect conditions.
Yeah.
And like it's starting to get light outside, and you get to this ending when I got the ending that I wanted, which is generally considered a bad ending, but I think it's the right ending for this game.
Yeah.
And I just remember just setting the controller down and just like I'd finished reading a book or something and just like sitting with everything it was trying to put in my face.
Yeah.
Like it's worth it. I mean, if he's going to do a movie of that where there's already sort of a full arc there, it's going to make sense. Like, I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
It's
hopefully he
really
goes for the bad ending. Yeah.
Horrible ideas in there. Really, really horrible ideas. There's this letter that you get at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the impetus for this quest that James is on. And at the end of the game, if you look in your inventory, it's a blank piece of fucking paper.
Constructed.
But if you don't see it, like if you don't look, you don't even understand. You don't know that the whole thing is. It's all projected. It's all projected around him. He's completely inside of his own trap.
A little trans. A little trans. Maybe a little trans.
Information there.
I mean, there's a queer
of use.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with seeing, it's so easy to see everything as a trans allegory because the nature of the universe is flux. There was an old joke in the Daily Show about how they always use changes by David Bowie on news bumps because literally changes are happening all the time. But 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 I listen to David Bowie and I think changes. That's what's happening now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Silent Hill 2 is what you ever think about. Just how influential Twin Peaks was on specifically like Japanese video games too, like because there's no way Silent Hill isn't influenced by Twin Peaks. There's no way. I cannot.
Oh no, the entirely parallel, self-contained worlds.
Yeah.
No, and you can pass between them, but you don't really want to.
Yeah.
And strange powers hold sway in both.
And like Pyramid Head, it's Bob. It's like the symbol of patriarchal male sexual assault, right? And that's
literally in the game. That's not a subtext.
Yeah,
that's that's just the regular text.
Yeah. You don't even need to read it. But also like Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past, Light World, Dark World. They've said is directly influenced by Twin Peaks. They tried to get Mark Frost on at one point. Yeah, and freaking. You listen to the major theme of Final Fantasy VII. Do, 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 do. Nobuo is cribbing Laura Palmer's theme. He is absolutely, even in the structure of that, I'm absolutely positive he's cribbing Laura Palmer's, which is good. I love the Final Fantasy VII theme. It's gorgeous.
That's become, because occasionally as a father, one must wash dishes for a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
And, Angelo Badalamenti.
The G.
Right there. Like, just right there with me.
Yeah. He's
right there. He's carrying me through it.
King, the amazing king, Angelo Badalamenti.
Unbelievable shit.
Yeah. R.I.P. I gotta say.
Yeah. I mean, I may have to do dishes soon. I mean, that's the dark scenario. I mean, you wanted a father on this podcast.
Yeah.
And now you have to deal with the ramifications.
Yeah, you're dealing with the pyramid head of dishes now. It's
exactly. And honestly, I think it's a lot of the same themes. I hope not.
No.
I'm not going to have any more dishes left. I've developed a very novel new paraphilia this afternoon.
Yeah, the dish ran away with the spoon. I'm spooning dishes now.
Think about these rich narratives.
Yeah. Yeah, doing Omen and Jim, but they're a dish and a spoon. Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, thank you for reading my book. I really appreciate it.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's very heartening to also see, a cis straight guy like get it to some degree, like whatever. There's always like a gap of knowledge that you experience too. Like you
definitely 100% bi. That should probably be established.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Oh, I said as much on the stage at PAX, but I think that that doesn't mean that information is broadly.
Well, on this podcast will be distributed. The bisexual Jerry Holkins. That's how I'm going to refer to you from now on.
Please?
Yes. The bisexual, but, like a lot of, you found your wife pretty young, and I probably didn't get a chance to explore that.
Again, like Omen.
Yeah.
Did I make the right choice?
Yeah.
Were these choices made for me? No, she's incredibly hot.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It turned out fine.
Turned out fine.
It turned out fine
for a bi guy. Pretty fly for a bi guy.
The rest of these desires have to flow from my pen.
Well, there you go. That's a way to, that's a good way to sublimate it too.
I think it's a classic. Oh, thank you for saying sublimate.
I say it a lot. It's one of the words I use too much. I think you said
it twice.
Yeah, I use it. It's that Kids in the Hall sketch where you can't stop saying ascertain. I have that with sublimate.
Is sublimate your inimical?
Yes, sublimate is my inimical. Yeah, it's the word I use
think
to
there's
make
other
myself sound
words
smart.
that I could use for inimical, though.
Yeah.
Sublimate is a very specific context,
Yeah.
right?
I think so. I mean, I use it even outside. Like, I use it just to generally mean to make
I
something
use it whenever
good.
a material passes to another physical state without the intermediary state.
Yes,
That's how I
yeah.
use it. I don't know what you guys are
I'm not using the specific thing. But I actually got in trouble because, or I didn't get it. I posted my "You Are Not Special" comic, which I think I've shown you, and I posted it again.
So you got very trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, not that much trouble. It was like, I mean, that's where I'm sort of getting this idea that Zoomers are pretty hope-pilled, because it's like, the reason why I didn't,
They have no choice.
yeah. Because so the people who weren't mad at the comic, so the comic is like it's like Maddox humor. It's like one of the criticisms of the comic is that the humor is very dated, like just being overtly cruel to fictional children is like, it's very early 2000s internet. Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing is it's like very much not nihilistic. It's pessimistic, because nihilism, the book would then suggest that I mean, that's one of the problems I had with people attacking. They said they were using nihilism in sort of a colloquial term.
This is what they think.
Yeah. They think that nihilism means that just the belief in nothing, or the belief that nothing matters, when it's closer to the belief that there is no inherent meaning of the universe, which is sort of a subtle difference, but one that, you know.
But one that creatures such as ourselves,
we know.
We get it
because we're smart, but
these online demons,
these little. I mean, that was the other thing. Is like there was
these
a massive.
imps.
Yeah, the fucking backlash to it was all teenagers, so it's not like I could like reprimand them, because I can't be like in my mid-30s fighting teens. You know, I'm not going to be housed, and then not just teenagers, like. All these teenagers with the autistic, ADHD, you know, like mentally ill in their handle. Like, I know what these kids are going through it. They're comic children.
They're going to take you to fucking school. You don't want any part.
I'm washing my hands. Like, I try and do PR for myself, but it's like, I'm not fighting these kids. They're correct for all I consider. Whether
they won.
Yeah, they won. I'm not fighting them on. It's not worth it for me to fight them on this. Especially, what am I going to say? Oh, you have bad media literacy. I hate people who are like always harping on media literacy. It's a boring criticism, and it's also like, they're literal children. I'm not going to get mad at literal children.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that they aren't doing.
Yeah,
because they are larvae.
Yeah. And so it's like, that's the reason why I have a sense of good humor about the backlash, because I noted like everyone who was Gen X or millennial got the joke, was that because the thing that we were fed, especially at like the end of history moment, is you are special, you're so good, that like the first episode of Daria is Esteemers, which is all about how that esteem bullshit fed to you is bullshit. But
we didn't buy it.
Yeah. Because we hate it. I mean, because it was just incessant. It was just constantly, that was the thing, and you know, I love Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers is great, but his message was sort of perverted in that weird hyper individualistic capitalist way, where you're special then meant become, if you aren't like achieving at a high enough level, then you're nothing. Right. Or, you know.
Yeah. We managed to warp that one pretty good.
Yeah. So, but you know, the thing with this book, which like the point of the book was that this is a terrible thing to say a kid. You shouldn't tell a kid you are not special and you amount to anything. That's the joke. It's like, it's a mean book.
It's ironic.
Yeah. But they took it, a lot of the people taking it on face value very seriously, saying that we were actually going to distribute this to children, or, you know, they themselves identified with the major character. And I think the problem is I made the main character too cute. I made him too identifiable. I made him look like Pim from Smiling Friends. So everyone immediately saw themselves in it. And it was like, no, you're not supposed to. This is just a thought experiment. You're not. But nothing I can say will appease these people. And it's fine. You know, it's but I see it as a failure with me. I failed to communicate in a way that was effective.
You've done this so badly. It's bleh.
Yeah.
Like, bleh. No, this is simply what it is to commit work to the public.
Yeah.
But I do think that response and who had the response is really interesting.
Yeah. Largely young people hated it, and millennials and Gen X like understood what was going on, but young people just routinely rejected it, which is, and I get it. I fully understand. And I don't, you know, to say that I am right in this situation would be what an asshole would say. So it's like,
but it's also more complex than that, right? Yeah. I would never talk about, it's not worth it, especially when you're talking about this level of pure disparity in time spent on Earth.
Yeah.
We don't want to be talking about whether or not they can read or.
No, they can read. They understood it to some degree. They just fucking hated it. They hated the joke.
Exactly. But because the way that they understood it was as it's something like its absolute inverse.
Yeah.
I'm going to be thinking about that all day.
Yeah.
Like, but I do think that you're right, is that these motherfuckers, quarantine's normal for them.
Yeah.
They consider what happened in 20, they consider that part of normal life.
Yeah.
That just happens sometimes. Sometimes the world burns down.
Yeah.
And for a year, you have to be inside.
Yeah.
They think that's a normal thing. And in their life experience, it is. A non-trivial percentage of their lives was spent under those conditions.
Yeah.
And how... And you and I would probably approach that the way that we would approach it, which would be like to have a little bit of a callous and approach it with a kind of fatalism.
Yeah.
But that's because that's where we are at.
Yeah. Well, I would be more, but COVID also made me completely insane. So it's like, I'm right there with them, you know, it's like, I get it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because we can put a foot in both of these worlds.
Yeah.
But for them, the idea that I don't think that you're wrong, and I can see it in my own house, like they genuinely think that hope is the successful life strategy.
Yeah, they have to, because they have to. When you are in a milieu of hopelessness, you have to hold on to that, you know, which is how they're very different than Gen X and millennials.
But essentially, it's an inversion.
Yeah.
It isn't even sophisticated. Like, we could talk about it for a long time. At the end of the day, it's simply an inversion of the status quo.
Yeah.
But what a beautiful...
I love it.
What a beautiful project.
Yeah, I love that they're all Steven Universed and Tumblred up. I think it's a great development.
They're
It's so much
crystal-pilled.
better. Yeah. Yeah, they're crystal gen. It's better than my youth where we were all calling each other fag constantly. Like, I don't want to go to, but now they're calling each other, you know, they're calling each other that, but in like the woke.
Oh my God. See, and that's, I would say that as like a parent ostensibly in the generation we have referred to many times.
Yeah.
Their level of reclamation of these terms is like right at the edge of what I can tolerate.
Yeah, it's like, you don't understand how we were using this. You don't understand.
No, it's like somebody had brought a cake over, and this is just a normal, like they're just kicking it, like they're doing it right. And on the top, it says "for gays only," and I'm like, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I couldn't get away with this, but you can because you're doing it.
And God bless you. But I'm just saying that, like, you have to understand that this strikes the ear.
Yeah.
This strikes my elderly ear in a really odd way. And it's like, so in the modern context, 2024, it's a different F word. It's not the F word of my youth.
Yes.
There's a new one.
Yeah.
And they're both, it is their instinct to use this in casual conversations.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I gotta be honest with you. That's not a word I want. I just don't actually, my reaction to that is so visceral.
Well,
that I can't relax around it.
Well, because that's the thing that for people of some older people, that's what would be said immediately to us before we got the shit kicked out of us.
That would be the precursor.
Yeah.
That would be a kind of dark bugle.
Yeah. Yeah. The like a honking rooster out in.
Yeah.
But
a wicked goose.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that, like, I can't have that around me. And I understand if it's a piece of technology that they want to leverage in terms of reclamation or something, but I just don't this is like a generational difference in our house. Like I don't want that word in the air of my house.
I fully, I
which
get
is
it.
like weird. I mean, I understand that it's weird, but it's just like, I'm not ready for that one to be okay. You can use this for yourselves and like for your friends and on Discord or whatever, but it's like in my mind, like that's
Yeah.
That's a bad word. Like, all the bad words are not bad words. Like, to me, that's a bad word.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want it in my fucking house.
Yeah, well, because, if you know it associated with the threat of physical violence, as many of us do, it's just very I mean, I take it back because there is this, and I think what also the kids are...
it's okay.
Yeah.
But people they can have different relationships with the word. I'm just saying that, like, here in a space where I have any say, I don't like it. I just it's not reclaimed yet for me.
You'll get there, or maybe
that's
not.
still for me. That's not the good one.
Yeah. I think the reaction to that, especially like the younger kids using some of the saltier language, was that what they're reacting to was that there was a scoldy period. There was a very scoldy period because we were just trying it on. There was a period when we were finger wagging, and it was sort of an effective tactic for a while. But then I think people and they wrote, you read Exiting the Vampire Castle or whatever about sort of the tendency towards leftist infighting and the tendency towards purity tests or whatever and shit like that.
Yeah. Well, luckily that's over.
That's never happened. No, but I do think that is, part of the use of that saltier language or the reclaiming of those words is part of that. We want to get to a space where there is more permissiveness and people don't have to feel like under the gun all the time of saying the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal and the ultimate purpose of it.
Yeah.
But I'm so old.
Yes.
And just... I liked that went away.
Yeah.
And it's theirs. I mean, they can have it. The whole world's theirs. They're gonna have the whole thing. It's totally fine. Mm-hmm. But like at dinner.
Yeah, at dinner, don't say chill it on the F slur at dinner. We don't need any of that talk. Going full Bill Burr.
Oh man, you got a Bill Burr knocking around in there too.
Oh, the one that I do very frequently, I do a Norm Macdonald, which I practice a lot because I feel it is the most disarming cadence in the world, and like
it
a
really
lot of
is
your
striking.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
It really is striking.
Oh yeah, I really enjoy doing watching that. My brother is Hitler, odd looking duck there. Eyes are completely black.
Now listen to me. Listen.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a bad podcast guest.
Okay.
But it's like 4:40. We have been talking for almost 3 hours.
We've been talking for a while because we got it. You're a very good podcast guest.
I'm not even mad.
I could talk for longer.
I can't believe it. I could absolutely talk for longer. But if I don't make bagels.
You got to make bagels. You got to do the dishes. You got to make bagels. Listen to Angelo Badalamenti. And, but that is the most beautiful thing about being a parent. Just feeding your kids is like this wonderful act.
Yeah. Well, no, the bagels are on request. They made this request yesterday, but they got to rise and rise. I mean, like it's going to. You got to prove. Dinner might be at 7 tonight. You know what I mean? Like it might. It might end up being at 7.
Might be in a freak at 7. Can't have that in there. Can't have that. No, you'll get it. But yeah, it's because you've been podcasting all day with with the new generation of trans webcomic artists. Yeah,
200,000
Twitter followers
on Twitter.
Yes,
just exquisite,
and all of them wonderful.
A kingdom.
My little Pittsburgh. No, Pittsburgh is larger than that. What's it to?
My own private
Spokane.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So, Jerry, thank you so much for being on. It's such a thrill talking to you.
Anytime.
It's love the strip from day one. I was reading it right back at the sin of long load times, and I to the point where I remember the title of the first strip. And
it went back.
It went back when all the John Romero stuff. My flesh. Yeah.
I should make you. I should get my ukulele. I should make you a little song.
If you want, I would appreciate it.
Just to celebrate this podcast, I should make a song.
Hell yeah. Well, we'll look out for that on the horizon as well. But people all already know where to find you. I think I don't know if you need to do plugs.
Possibly.
You're kind of, but no, I guess like a lot of young people who listen to the show might not know about PA. Actually,
and that's to their credit.
So
the ones that live in this house know about it, but But by and large, no.
Yeah.
So yes, penny-arcade.com, but also I would say that these days, bigger parts of the things that we have accomplished and continue to iterate on are the PAX series of game conventions, centered on the attendee of the shows. We also have the Child's Play charity that is out there for you, and our actual play stylings, Live Dungeons and Dragons, a 15-year campaign who recently rebooted. Don't get scared. You don't have to watch all of it. You don't have to watch any of it, frankly. But if you enjoy Dungeons and Dragons and enjoy something more like a home game, a little more colloquial, a little less professional, certainly Acquisitions Incorporated may be able to offer that for you.
Hell yeah. Well, we will be looking for those out on the horizon. This has been a wonderful episode, and thank you so much again for coming on.
It's been such a pleasure. Anytime you need to fill several hours.
Okay, yeah, I will call upon. I'll get a hold of the Tycho bump. Get the Tycho bump over there.
Listen, it's time. I got a good feeling. I think you're going to go places, kid.
That's so wonderful to hear. Thank you. That's so wonderful coming from you. So everybody, thank you for listening and have a great evening. Bye-bye. Woohoo! Woohoo! House of Decline is brought to you by members of our $10 Patreon tier. These include Big Fan of Noise, Cher, Constantine Bristow, Daniel Stern, Dr. Spichemin Zero, Dustin Koski, Esty, Fiat Lux, Grant Williams, Jody Shen, Jordan Rebay, Keaton Livingston, Kevin Ott, Kimberly Latrin, Liz Heckmayer, Miles Forrester, Piscadoro, Stephen Pikelny, and Tor. Thank you for your support, you wonderful people.